Hey, what's going on? This is kiodiekin. Welcome back to the channel. Sorry for a little graphical hiccups there. I think I have too many processes running in the background right now, so give me a minute. I'll go ahead and shut it off. And we will get started. So just giving you guys a first brand new look at Supreme Ultra version 1.1. A lot of stuff is still going to look the same here, but for those of you, this is going to be the first time you guys seeing it here. So a couple of things I definitely want to thank everybody for joining today. I know it's still kind of early in the evening. I was actually going to go on a little bit later. I know I actually have another guest that's supposed to join probably in about another 30 minutes or so. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and discuss a little bit about some of the new updates for Supreme Ultra version 1.1. A lot of you guys don't know this, but there was actually a Supreme Ultra version 2. I've had it since last year, right after the release of Pistolero. And so one of those particular updates was the ability to launch GameCube, Cube, and Wii games directly from the desktop Retropie interface, as you're seeing right now from Emulation Station. Previously, you would have had to go to the desktop and type in chmod and type in the additional commands in order to see or access Wii and GameCube. So I know there's been some other videos on that as well, but this is the first time you guys are seeing it on Supreme Ultra, the ability to launch Wii and GameCube games directly from Retropie, which is running as a 64-bit architecture right here on the middle of the screen. You also have Wine, you have Amiga, you also have Chrome. I did load a few of the ROMs. However, there's been some additional changes made to Wine, which you guys will see for the first time within the RetroPie community. The devs for the Supreme team have spent a lot of time working on this particular update. So, some of the things that are brand new, it is running a little bit cleaner. It's not as laggy in certain aspects as it used to be in regards to some of the games with the Nintendo 64 interface. I'm not going to show a lot of the other previous stuff that I've already covered with Supreme Ultra because that will primarily be redundant. But for the first time ever, for those of you who are familiar with Mugen, you had to load or type in a specific command in order to play the games. Now, I know there are some technical words as far as these aren't ROMs, they're executable files for Wine or for Mugen, but we'll just call them ROMs for the sake of conversation. But initially, as you guys see here, I have about 122 games on here. Initially, in order to load a game with Mugen on RetroPie, you had to type in a specific directory for each game. So if I wanted to play a game, I would have to type in a certain directory to reference where the file is located. It was going on level 1, and that could take anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, depending upon your speed, roughly about 5 minutes for each one, because you would have to go back and forth through the files on your Windows Explorer device and allocate the files and say, hey, this is where the file is. Well, that is no longer. So all you have to do now to load Mugen, for those of you, that's right, because I know Supreme Ultra released this. So this is even a newer update to what you guys have seen recently. All you have to do is copy and paste and drag them over, and the games will automatically work. Now, you still need to set up your controls, and but you guys know, I just for those of you familiar with Mugen, it is pretty much impossible. For the sake of time, I just transferred these ROMs or games over about 30 or 40 minutes ago. It will be practically impossible for me to transfer all of these games over and have them working with Mugen. So I know you guys haven't actually seen the process of me transferring them over to find out if this is legit or not, but I can assure you I just transferred them over within about the last 30 minutes or an hour, and they will launch. So I'll go ahead and play a few of these. or just get them to launch just so you guys can see that they are working. Again, I haven't fully set up the controls. I haven't optimized any of this yet. Hey, what's going on, Quesadilla? Yes, the Mugen is on the Pi. It's actually been on the Pi now for about a year. However, this is a brand new process where you don't have to type in any directories or any commands in order to get them to work. Everything will just launch automatically the second you drag them over. So yeah, we're all familiar with ROMs. You just copy and paste them over from your, with your video snaps and everything. And primarily, let me go ahead and try this one here. Primarily with a lot of the games, people were asking me to do a tutorial on them. And I was like, screw that, because it just took a while just to get 2 games to run on the Pi, making sure you're typing in the right commands and everything. So this is really simplified process. This is something that will be really good for the community, and it saves a lot of time, because it would have been pretty much impossible to create a ROM pack to make sure that it would definitely work. Okay, so so these are some of the advancements that you guys will see here on the Retropie interface, which you guys won't find anywhere else. Now, as far as the release date for Supreme Ultra 1v1, I have no idea when this is going to release. Give me a second here. Yeah, so I have no idea when this is going to release. You could obviously expect it somewhere in the near future, but this is one of the big advancements that hopefully the community appreciates, because it would have been a lot of work just to try to get this done. And that's one reason why I didn't even bother trying to do a tutorial on it, because there was just way too many steps involved just to hurry up and get something working. So with that being said, we're going to have a couple of games launch here. I've been playing around with it just a little bit just to make sure everything was kosher and everything would work. Now, I haven't optimized anything at all. I burned the image earlier this morning, and I just transferred my ROMs a few minutes ago. But we're also going to watch a few GameCube and Wii games also launch directly from Retropie itself. And then, of course, go ahead and get into a little gameplay. Now, the games still have the same performance. There's some additional methods that you could use to get better optimization. But keep in mind that even if you use GameCube or Wii, they still run better from a desktop interface, because Retropie itself still uses additional system resources that would affect the overall performance of the device. I'm just sharing this group here. Just want to share the link here to a few more groups. Hey, Damien, what's going on? Wii and GC on the Pi. Yeah, so you could play it. I mean, the Wii and the GameCube games have always been playable on the Pi since the day one. It's just all about optimization. And this is actually one of the more important features in preparation and getting ready for the Raspberry Pi 5. Games take a little long and slow. Let me see here. So yeah, you could always been able to run Wii and GameCube games on the Pi 4. So it's just always been a matter of time and getting it to actually run. Let me check my WinSCP system really quick. There's some files I definitely want to share you guys before we get started with that. So let's bounce over to the desktop. And we're going to log into WinSCP. I want to show you guys some of the games that I actually have loaded right now. So these are some of the games that I have loaded right now on the Raspberry Pi. I copied over some of these Mugen games here, as far as Aliens versus Predator, Capcom Fighting Evolution. So this entire set over here is what I've copied over. And this is what the directory looks like on Supreme Ultra. So I'll go ahead and pull it up here for you guys. This is Retropie. We're going to go to ROMs. And I'm not sure which update you guys have done on Supreme Ultra. So there's actually been 2 different ways to have them running. So now it's just located in the wine folder. And then, of course, these are all the games that are currently installed on the Retropie device. Apparently or supposedly, the Pi is supposed to come out next year. Supposedly, so we don't actually have a confirmation date on that, but there's going to be some really good advancements that you guys will really love about the whole thing. All right, let me switch back over here to the Pi. Just give me 1 second. So another cool thing is you still have all the same scripts that you'll have available as well. And addition to that, you will also get the Supreme Marquee tool as well as some additional scripting options that will help your Pi run a little bit more smoothly. All right. So initially, let me go ahead and show you guys this quick process so you guys can really appreciate the issue. So initially, when you would transfer your games over to Mugen on the Retropie, you would have to go to your Mugen folder. I wonder why my computer's running really slow today. All right, so you would go to your Mugen folder, and this is your data information. So typically, you would drag a folder in here, and then you would have to copy the command line and then create another one, and then type in the exact directory of the file type of the game that you would want to access. So from now on, you pretty much don't have to do any of that. Let's try Nintendo GameCube real quick. So I just want to show you guys launching. Don't expect to get the best performance out of this right now. I just want to show you that you can launch some of the Wii games and GameCube games right now directly from the interface. And so here we have one of the Nintendo games running. Sounds still a little off, but you do have launching directly from this. And this, again, this has been about a year old that we've actually had this. So and honestly, we're not too far away from getting full optimization on the Pi for GameCube and Wii because most of these games are still running pretty fine, but the sound is off just a little bit. If you guys have watched some of my other videos, you do have some additional tools you can use to get better performance, such as lowering the overall resolution on your Pi device. But in some cases, it's still going to hiccup. So definitely, I think with the new Raspberry Pi, or maybe even with the new Raspberry Pi 4 that has recently come out, if you guys aren't aware of it, there is a new Raspberry Pi 4 that is out that has a better Broadcom chip on it, which allows for better overheating and gives you better cooling. So, as far as I know, I haven't seen any reviews on it, but there are a few articles about it in the forum that definitely details what you can do with it. And I believe it is slightly better than the Pi 400, but it will give you better optimization as far as overclocking with lead heat consumption. And again, this is on the Raspberry Pi 4, and I am not overclocked. This is the regular Pi 4, 4 GB model. This isn't the Pi 8 or the 8 GB version. I'll let some of it play a little bit just so you guys can see some of the performance. Again, we aren't overclocked. I haven't done anything to optimize anything. This is just right off of a fresh burn. And I'm using a keyboard right now because I haven't set up any of the controls. Hey, what's going on? Out of my mind. How's it going? And then when this is done, I'll give you guys another look at some of the other Nintendo games. All right, I'm going to go ahead and back out of here now. I think that's enough for now. And as you can see, there is the Dolphin emulator running in the background. And let's go ahead and try Wii right now. And we will try Donkey Kong Country Returns. Now, this should be a little bit more choppier. But the cool thing is we're getting initial launch directly from Retropie instead of having to go to a desktop. Triple X, what's going on? So the funny thing is, you actually can, if you want to, we can have the. I actually have the software. I haven't tried to enable it to run, but you can even launch PlayStation 4 games on here. I mean, obviously, it will crash though, but that Linux software is available. You can install it on the Pi if you wanted to. The emulator, I think it's called Spine, but obviously, due to performance reasons, the game will crash. But it's a cool thing to say that you can at least launch PlayStation 4 games on the Pi. All right, now I gotta. I'm gonna try another game since I don't know which one my A and B button is. Let's try Ghost Squad. Hey, Dirty Gaming, thanks for joining. What's going on, man? So all of this stuff is going to be brand new for Supreme Ultra. Primarily, you won't find a lot of this stuff on any other build. Again, the Supreme Ultra version is compatible with the Pi 400, the Pi 4 gigabyte model. Again, you're going to have different optimizations for the Pi 2 gigabyte model. I'm not even sure if they even still sell the 2 gigabyte model, but this is optimized for the 4 gigabyte model and 8 gigabyte model as well. And we're just going to sit here and wait for it to launch. And then after this, we'll jump back over to Mugen. All right, now I got to find my plus button. Oops. Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is very important to make sure you set up your controls for all your systems, so that way you don't have to fish and try to find out which is which on your keyboard. Yeah, some of the games by default will work with the X or the Z button. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. And I'm using the mouse now to navigate. Let's just go to next. Sounds not too bad, but yeah, let's go back to resume game. Accepting entry. And you can select the name. Which one of these is the plus button? I'm trying to find it. But the cool thing is you'll definitely be able to launch directly from Retropie in the future. Hopefully the optimization on the newer Pi models will definitely be a little bit better. So you can actually get this performance. So again, this is something that's been in the development with the Supreme team for about over a year now. And if I can't find this plus button, let's see, we got the home button there, then we will just have to jump on over to another system. But I definitely wanted to show you guys some of the gameplay here just so you can see how it moves with the performance. All right, so we'll just back up. Let's go to Mugen really quick. All right, so you have your new emulator. Now, keep in mind, too, a lot of themes don't have wine. I know Lutris has it, so that's a requirement for RetroPie in order to even see it. But as far as wine is concerned, that's the theme that you'll need to have, or you actually need to have a theme that incorporates wine, or else you won't be able to see it. And I believe I played this video or this game earlier for you guys in a previous video with Justice League. So let's see what type of performance we get out of it. And again, I haven't optimized anything. This is just straight right out of the box. If you guys were to flash this image directly uh, to your disk. Can the Wii emulator run virtual console games and WAV files? Yes, it definitely can. So nothing has changed in regards to that. So if you have the files, which is what I have currently loaded, then yeah, it can run WAD files and different virtual games. All right, so this is one of the games that I did showcase earlier with Justice League versus Street Fighter. And I'll just let it run for you for a few of you. But again, this is not the most important part about this. I mean, obviously, Mugen has been running on the Pi now for about a year, maybe a year and a half. But the biggest part about this is being able to just transfer them over and have them working without having to go through all the additional command prompts and directory associations. And like I said, somebody was asking me to show them how to load them, and I was like, screw that. This is just way too much work. In fact, it was so much work, it was almost the ideal equal to creating another RetroPie image or a RetroPie base. So, all right, so here we have one of the members of the Supreme team joining us today. Let's go ahead and bring them on. Make sure they got their mic and everything ready. What's going on, man? You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can. So tell us a little bit about the new updates for Supreme Ultra.
Okay, so actually, there's quite a bit of a list because we were trying to update Supreme Ultra, obviously 1.0 to 1.1, which was basically just all the Supreme Online Toolkit updates, plus, the OS update and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But once we were doing that, we kept moving and moving and moving and moving. And we're like, okay, you know what? This is going to be version 2 in a second, but we have version 2 already in development, right? You know what I mean? So we didn't want to move too forward. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Ultra 1.1 is pretty close to what you're going to get when you get Ultra version 2. The only difference is between V2 and 1.1 now is probably the massive new library of scripts, because version 2 has a whole new library of, scripts. Like you can now organize your emulation station order without having a computer and
Mhm.
all those other crazy stuff. But on Ultra 1.1 from 1.0, what's new? First off, Dolphin now officially loads through Emulation Station, and not
Mhm.
just Dolphin, any 64-bit application. Yeah, you heard me right. Any 64-bit application that you want will now
Oh,
load
nice.
through. Yeah, will now load through the Retropie menu, obviously with some configuration. The marquee
Okay.
script had an overall big change to it, so now the marquee script now fills up your screen. You no longer have that display shutdown on the marquee script. It now boots up the intro video. There's no more having to make an intro video. It's automatically being done. Obviously, you showed off wine, so now you can just drag and drop games and not have to worry about anything else. So you just go on your computer, drag over your executable files, as long as they're 32-bit, obviously, and it just loads. And the list goes on. Like, everything on the online toolkit has been added. Like,
Mhm.
everything that's on there. A track mode's been updated, Pegasus has been updated, emulation stations has been updated, all the emulators have been updated, the RetroPie itself has been updated, the OS, the kernels, you name it. It's basically a clean base in a way,
Mhm. Let me
right?
ask you this: when is the possible release date for this?
So Ultra 1.1 is actually not going to be currently released to the public. So if you want to have Ultra 1.1, like right now, all you're going to need to do is apply all the updates from the online toolkit, and that will
Mhm.
push it to 1.1, and then update your OS. The reason why we're not pushing it out as of yet, we don't have like a planned release date, is because we might just convert it to V2 and release V2 to the public. You know what I mean? Why push out a
Mm.
build and then a month later push V2 out? It just doesn't make any sense,
Okay.
right?
Right. Let me ask you this: how much testing has gone into this since you gave it to me? Like as
Uh,
far as checking, like just different variables.
Um, like I'm not really a supreme member. I'm more of like a tester for them, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I don't know exactly how much has gone into it. You have to actually make a post on the supreme page and have them get back to you, because oh geez, they have, I think, 3 testing groups going right now. I've seen, actually, no, there's 4 testing groups going right now. They have a testing group that's just for Mugen. They have a testing group just for Dolphin. They have testing for, they're testing the scripts. Like, it's like Supreme is not a person, 2 people. It's a community, right? Like, anybody can be part of the Supreme team. Like anybody in the chat, as long as they help and do something, they're part of the Supreme team. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, definitely.
you know what I mean? You're part of the Supreme team. Everybody is. It's not one person. Like, people always get confused in the community where they're like, "Oh, the Supreme team took this and that." You've heard that, like, quite a bit, right?
Oh, of course.
And then they find out the developer that made that is actually the one that is part of the Supreme team. It's quite hilarious.
Right. Yeah, I was just noticing just a few things since I tried this earlier because I know earlier when I tried this, I put 2 Mugen games on here and they kind of loaded right away. Whereas now I said, screw it. I mean, it's working. I loaded 121. So
Oh, it's not just Mugen games. Like I said, I was fooling around like on my YouTube channel there, and I was just simply dragging in Windows applications. I went on to the internet and I downloaded like Microsoft Paint, VLC player, Photoshop, frick you name it, and I just dragged the files over to the wine folder, and it just worked. You don't have to do anything. There's no script needed. Like all
right.
those builds coming out with Mugen installed, they're going to be absolutely there's no point of even downloading that or wasting your time, because why would you want to make a script for every single game you add? You had 121 games, right? Could you imagine
Yeah.
making a script for
Yeah.
each individual game?
Yeah. So again, for those of you just joining, and for those of you who are familiar with running Mugen on the Pi, you had to create a separate script for every game. So imagine adding a ROM to let's say your Retropie build, let's say an NES ROM, but it wouldn't work unless you had the full description in of the game. You know how long
Yeah.
that would take for every
So
individual game to work?
so basically what the script did was it basically opened the directory where the game was located, and then it assigned it to obviously wine and box 86, and then associate the video drivers and the sound drivers and all that, like Vulkan and all that other stuff, right? And
Right,
could you imagine if you had a game folder with like 20 different folders? Like you obviously have Mugen, and you have a Mugen folder and then a Mugen executable, but some games you can add will have like um, the folder will be called, I don't know, let's say Microsoft Paint, right?
right,
And then in that folder, you have Microsoft Paint Lite, for example. You go in that folder, and then that one you have Microsoft Paint 32-bit, Microsoft Paint 64-bit. You have to go in the 32-bit folder. You know what I mean? It keeps going, going, going. So that
right.
script has to have that exact location of where the executable is. So you can be there for, like I said, I don't know, 5-10 minutes making a script for each game. Like obviously, there you can copy and paste and reuse the same script over and over, but it's still time consuming, right? You got to open up Notepad and you got to, or
Yep.
whatever, and edit the paths and all that per every game. Like you're talking 100 games. That's not, too bad. Like that may take you like maybe an hour. But if could you
No,
imagine
it would
adding
take a
a
little bit.
thousand?
Yeah, yeah, it would take a little bit longer than that because yeah, because then you would have to make sure you're typing in the right directory
Yeah,
information
you
and
gotta
stuff.
test. Yeah, obviously you gotta test it, right? And then you have to make sure the game location matches. And oh man, I'm I'm just happy what the Supreme team did. Like I'm still shocked to this day. Like when I received Ultra 1.1 from the main guys,
Hmm.
right? When I received it myself and I ran it on my Pi, I was like sitting there like, um, whoa, like what the heck? Because I'm still rocking Ultra 1.0, right? I applied the updates manually myself, but when I tried
Right,
Ultra 1.1, I'm like, okay, N64 obviously runs better now, and Dolphin now loads through emulation station. Like it's, I don't know what to say. It's just a huge improvement. I'm shocked like to what they've done on Ultra 1.1. Like if you can see how smooth it is now, the menu now doesn't freeze like it did before.
right. Yeah,
Cause
I was just noticing some of that, and I know some of you are probably wondering now, like, why is it backing out? That's on my end. I just took a bunch of Mugen files that I did have. There are some that I am familiar with that I know will automatically launch, but I think some of the files didn't transfer over. But just thought I'd just go ahead and do some of these just to
it
showcase.
also what what has been driving me crazy in the community right now is I've been seeing a lot of people put Supreme Ultra down, right? Saying, "Oh, Supreme Ultra is supposed to be the best and all that." Supreme Ultra is not the best build or anything like that. And the reason why people are comparing these builds to Ultra and saying, "Oh, this build runs better," don't forget Ultra came out a very long time ago and has, like, the one on Arcade Punks or on the internet. It's the first version of Ultra that came out that supported the Pi 4. And people are forgetting that. Oh, I downloaded a base retro Pi and my games run so much better. Well, obviously you're on this, what, 30 versions of retro Pi up. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it wasn't, let's see, Supreme Ultra would be, let's see, you had Beta 2, Beta 4,
When was the
and then
release
we
date?
had the release date was in November last year. Wolfenos's Image was the first release.
Yeah,
using it.
exactly. See, on Supreme Ultra, like it just doesn't make any sense to me why people are comparing. Like, if you're comparing a build, compare the exact same version of the build. You know what I mean? Like, update everything to the same update that builds on, then compare them. If you compare Ultra 1.1 to any build that's out there right now, I guarantee you're going to get the same performance. The
Well,
exact
definitely.
same. That's why I laugh at people. Or actually, you know what? I'm actually wrong, because you know this. It's called the EEPROM issue,
Right, right.
which is still a thing.
Yeah, for those of you guys wondering, right now we should be seeing Marvel versus or X-Men versus Avengers. Let me see. Is it not even pulling up here? Let me just double check.
I'm just curious. You may know this? Is there an actual executable file for Killer Instinct just by itself? Like, is there actually like a game, a PC game
Uh,
that was released?
I know there was PC. I'm just trying to figure out why my video is not feeding through right now because I got the game running, but it's not showing up on the screen. I know with uh, well, maybe through Steam, maybe that seems like it would be the appropriate thing for it to launch.
Yeah, because I like.
Because I know it was released on Microsoft, so I think there may have been something on the Steam library allowing you to play. I don't know if anybody in the chat happens to know that, but it should be.
It was released on Microsoft.
Yeah, I know you can play it on the
Hello,
PC. I just can't. Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
hello.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Oh, did you bounce out? Dirty Gaming, you there? All right. So we're just going to continue on with the stream. Let me go ahead and jump back in really quick. Let me switch over. I'm going to turn my camera off and then turn it back on for a second because apparently my video feed is not coming through. Wolfino says KI got rebooted on the Xbox, but there was no PC port. Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 had PC ports. But was there, Wolfinos, was there anything on Steam though? Because I could have sworn I saw one of those other companies do something with Killer Instinct. Not Blizzard or one of those other companies, but something similar. You there? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got kicked out from internet connectivity issues.
Yeah, I was having some issues too. I'm wondering what's going on because all of a sudden my video wasn't showing on the screen. So I had to reload my application.
Yeah, so if people want more information about, obviously, um, Supreme Ultra, the best thing to do is to go to the Supreme, retro gaming page and ask them directly, because the developers there are the ones that can most likely help you the most. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
because there's so many developers part of the Supreme team. Like, the list is ridiculous. I think there's currently 3 or 4 working on Ultra at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to name the names off, because if you want to know their names, you can go on the credit system and obviously look them up, who they are.
Right.
Supreme team has nobody to hide. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So quick question though. But Wolfenos is saying it was on Steam. That would mean it would have a executable file.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you know what's be interesting to test, if you could get that, is to test the Killer Instinct executable and see if you get full speed. Because the Pi has been suffering with that game for the longest time. Could you imagine if Wine can run it full speed, no issues?
Right.
That'd be a game changer by itself right there, because that game is notorious for not working on the Pi.
Yeah, that's true.
But like I've been saying, is if anybody wants any information, just go to the Supreme. Like, I'm not like, I shouldn't call myself a Supreme member. I'm more of a tester in a way. but
Right.
the Supreme team considers everybody a member. You know what I mean? If you put any work in, like we have one guy um, I've been talking to, and he's actually really good friends with the Supreme team. I believe his name is Daniel or something, and obviously there's Kevin and those guys there. Um, wow, the work they've put into Ultra, just those three guys, is
Right.
just insane. Like Dan is the one that got the Mugen games running without having to set up your controllers, or not your controllers, but just automatically sitting into the game. You have Kevin; he got Dolphin and all that stuff working, with the script, and then we have obviously, I'm not gonna name the other guys' names. I don't know if they want to be labeled in the video, but they're on the credit system. They're labeled for what they did, and I'm very impressed to the developers that have came together to make something good, right? Because Supreme's a community thing. It's not one person. Like I said, two people. People always think that way, right?
Right. Wolfenos is saying no, it was the reboot Killer Instinct game. There was no original KI with an EXE.
So there has never been a PC Killer Instinct game.
No.
Has there been a fan made maybe one?
I don't know if I would really trust that and take it as legitimate, but I'd have to look around because, and then the other thing too is I would wonder because even if you downloaded it through Steam, I don't think you could transfer it because usually those games are locked to their marketplace. They'd probably have some type of
Yeah,
license
true.
preventing you from transferring it to somewhere else. All right, as this one's not working. But yeah, that's just good to know.
Let me see if there's any Supreme guys actually online, like actual developers that can come in this chat with us and talk because they'll be the ones that can answer more questions, right? Like what has me confused is the marquee script. Like, oh my god, it's a lot better than what it was.
Right.
Like if you compare, like if you go online and type in Pi marquee script, right, or marquee, you can anybody can download. It's not made by this, like the marquee original script wasn't made by the Supreme team. Like not the script, sorry, but the I don't know, the firmware, software, whatever you call it, the installer.
Right.
Like that's not made by the Supreme team. But if you compare both of them, the Supreme version and their version, oh my god.
Wow.
The Supreme has a script that can control, what folder it pulls from everything. They don't. The marquee is full screen and the intro video boots up on both screens. They don't. You know what I mean? Like it's just like. But I believe
Yeah,
they're working. But I believe they're working
I'll have to
together
check
anyways.
some stuff. Yeah, I'll have to check some stuff eventually, and then also go through my Mugen list here because I just took some. I think 100 games of my Mugen games here and just transferred them over, just to see if they will launch. I know some of my files didn't transfer over correctly, but I'll double check that a little bit later. Do we have any questions in the chat as far as anything anybody wants to know as far as operation and how this will be compatible for their build?
Like the Mugen installer, like the Mugen Lucha installer is public right now. You can go on GitHub and download it right now to any Pi.
How long did it take them, do you know, to make this script that would make it possible for people just to copy and paste the games over and have them launch without having to type in the commands?
Oh, the script's already out to the public already. You just go to the Supreme Pi
here we go.
GitHub and you just type in the one command into PuTTY and it installs everything for the end user. You don't have to do anything.
Okay.
But I do know they wanted people to know that it wasn't a one person thing. I do know, like I said, Daniel Dan, Retro Devil, Crash Cortex, like all those guys were obviously a big part of it, right? It's a community thing. So Supreme doesn't want to be getting all the credit for work that, if they want to be labeled as Supreme team, then that's up to them. But please check out the Supreme Pi GitHub, and they have the full credit system there, so you can check it out.
Right. You guys know what I'm noticing? So right now I have the Mortal Kombat game launching in front of me. And so what it appears to happen, you guys can't see it. You know what? Maybe I should plug my camera in so you guys can see it. Because the Mugen is loading the game and it changes resolution, it doesn't appear to be compatible with my game capture device. So I'm actually looking at it right now, but you guys can't see it because it changed the resolution. So let me do this. I'm going to plug my camera in so you guys can actually see what I'm seeing because it's not feeding in directly into the capture device. 1 second. All right, I'm back. All right, so let me go ahead and turn my camera on. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah, let me go ahead and turn my camera on because I want you guys to see what I'm seeing. That's weird though. So at first I thought it was my capture device or something on my end that wasn't working. I was like, wait a minute. So yeah, when it switches over to, there we go. Right, let me straighten it out a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna turn this off. All right, so that's what I'm seeing right now. You guys can't see it because the video resolution changed on the Pi. I was wondering about that. I was like, how in the world can I see something you guys can't see it? So I'll just leave it down here in the corner for right now. Hey, Retro Lizard, what's going on? RC3D, thank you guys. What's going on? Oh, Wolf knows. Who's that guy? Who's Retropie guy? You check with Retropie guy first. Yeah, we're just testing out some Mugen right now. I had to switch over because the video resolution kept switching on the capture card device, so it's not fully coming through to the computer. So I had to plug in the camera so you guys can see it. And this is Mortal Kombat with Mugen.
And it's not limited just to Mugen games, right? Any executable file that is, I believe, 32-bit will run through Wine. So, like, it's open to a lot of games. Like myself, I tested out Age of Empires 2, worked flawlessly. I tested a bunch of weird Microsoft applications, just worked. No doing anything. I just dragged over the whole folder with the executable in there, and it just loaded.
Yeah, and that's another thing we've been experimenting with was trying to get that new light gun to work, new light gun games to work, bang bang pew pew. And so I did already talk to the developer about that, about making his setup 32-bit compatible because his is already set for 64, so it's not going to work directly with this right out of the box. But in the near future, it should be. All right, now see, we're back. So yeah, so the Mugen emulator, obviously, we're still experimenting with some of this stuff because it changed display ratios. It didn't fully feed through to the capture device. So for those of you in the future who do wish to start capturing gameplay, obviously that can be adjusted, but it is something you'll have
That's
to play
nothing
with.
to do with Mugen. That's actually the CFG file. You the pack you may have downloaded it may have different resolutions set per game. That's probably what's happening.
Right. Okay. Well, it could be fixed, so it's nothing.
Oh, definitely. It's super easy. Just go to the mugen.cfg file and just change it to whatever you want.
All right. All right, let's see what we got here. Again, keep in mind, I just grabbed this stuff and then just had it loaded on here. All right, let's see if the game is loading. But all in all, I have to say this is really impressive because I know how much time has went into this, and I know how much time has actually saved me, which is one of the reasons why I wasn't pushing too much for the Mugen, because I'm like, no person who's a hobbyist wants to build an arcade unit, go through the hassle, doing everything they do on their end, just to go in and start typing up command lines and stuff. All right, this game should be loading up, so let's just give it here a second.
And that error message at the beginning is actually not an error message. It's just informing you that the Q joypad configuration wasn't set up for that game. And you don't have to do that. It's just more convenient to have a controller set up as like, a mouse input, and A, B, X, Y as like, Z, X, Y, Z, whatever on your keyboard. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
for those that don't want to use a mouse and keyboard on their Pi.
Yeah, and again, I just slapped this stuff in here, so I didn't bother to do any type of configuration whatsoever. I just wanted to show you guys it was all working.
Yeah, so right now it looks like you just have a bunch of you added a bunch of games and the resolution's not set correctly per game, and because that pack is probably some off the internet somewhere, right?
Yep, I just got some. It was like 121 games of Mugen, and I just decided to go ahead and just transfer it over and see what would happen. But I know most of the people here have definitely seen enough to know that it is working. And can you tell us a little bit about the performance on N64? I know you said that it was improved upon compared to Supreme
Yeah,
Ultra.
it was. So I wasn't expecting anything different. So I usually play N64 on my Ultra, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
fine. So I added a few N64 games to Ultra 1.1, and I'm like, okay, the sound's not stuttering in this game, and so forth. So I was actually very impressed. And then I was playing games that weren't running at all, and they're running now. So I was pretty mind blown.
Oh, pretty sweet. So, what's the performance difference now compared to N64 on Supreme Ultra versus what we've seen in the past? You there?
Yeah, sorry, what'd you say?
I said, what's the performance difference compared to what we've seen in the past with Supreme Ultra
Oh,
for
basically,
N64?
well, like I said, sound is the number one thing that I've noticed, was the whole sound thing. Some games had sound stuttering issues, and now that's completely gone. And games that weren't running at all or barely at all, which all know the titles, like um, Cruising USA. The sound was so bad on that game. Now there's no sound issues whatsoever. So, yeah, you can test it for yourself. It's like I wasn't testing every emulator. I was just using it like a daily driver, and I'm like noticing all these weird differences. Like N64, I noticed it. Obviously Mugen, I tried the game and I thought I made a script for it, right? Because it showed up. I'm like, okay, I added a script, and they told me like,
Right.
yeah, you don't have to make scripts for the Mugen games, and that started up like just randomly everything. Like Dreamcast was running better, Saturn, you name it. Like just go in there and add a bunch of systems, and the performance is like double.
Yeah, let me take a look at something real quick because I know there was something I showed earlier, someone earlier in the broadcast. Those are my Dreamcast ROMs. I wish I actually had an example to show people how. Let's see. So this is my Mugen folder. I don't think I have anything here to make an example out of it, but yeah, I had it on my previous image, but that's been erased. Yeah, I had a setup here where I could give somebody an example. You know what? I'm not sure if there's another video out there that shows you how to type in all the directories with this, but I also want to give a shout out to Damaso because he's the one who's really been pushing for this to be on Supreme Ultra. I know he's
He
really
was
more
I
familiar
heard
with.
he was the one that was actually the one that said, hey, can this get working? Because there is a method out right now, but it's kind of like confusing. There's a bunch of steps to follow, and I think the Supreme team went from that, because I do know the Supreme team was working on something where they were trying to convert. There was a Linux version of Mugen out already, right? There was actually a version of Linux Mugen, but it wasn't
Right.
working on the Pi. So the Supreme team was, going through it and, trying to get it to work and all that. And they just said, you know what, let's just do what everybody else is doing and, do the wine box 86 method. And from there, it improved and improved and improved. Like you've been there, I think, through the whole steps, right? It's got better and better and better and better. Like
Right.
before, how many steps were there just to install? Wine. How many steps were there just to install Box 86 or Mugen? There was like, what, 40 steps?
Yeah, it was something close to something like that, but
Now it's one command and drag and drop. Yeah, I wouldn't ask too many of those technical questions. If anybody has technical questions, just go to the Supreme. Um, what's their page? Supreme Retro Gaming, I believe, on Facebook.
Yes. Yeah, go to Supreme Retro Gaming or on Facebook, or you can go to also Retropie Official, which is another cool group. You guys can get a lot of good information from it. Oops, let me hit the button there.
Yeah, because that's the place to get help from the community and technical questions answered. Because I'm not gonna be able to answer any of those technical questions that some of the developers would be better to answer, right? Like I'm more of a tester. I know what I'm doing, but I wouldn't call myself a full on developer because some of the things these guys do, it has your mind spinning.
Right. Okay, so there we have a launch from a Nintendo Wii game directly from the Retropie menu. Again, no optimization has occurred. We just have
So if you're
everything as it is.
right
It's
now, you're
stopped. So
showing you're showing what is that Wii, right?
yeah, this is the Wii.
So if you want better performance through Dolphin and Wii on the Retropie, what I recommend doing is first off changing your resolution to something lower, and then after you do that, overclock it to whatever you want. You don't have to, and this is just for Dolphin. The overclocking is not needed for anything else on the build, and no Supreme build that have ever came out has been overclocked by default. Just let people know so they're not worried about a fan or anything like that, right? But if you do want to have better performance, overclock your Pi to whatever you're comfortable with and change your resolution to like maybe 720p, and then what you're seeing now will improve greatly through RetroPie. But if you even want to see more performance, load it through the desktop.
Right. But I will have to say this is some major advancements in the RetroPie community. I remember when RetroPie 1, not RetroPie 1, but Beta 1 for the RetroPie 4 first came out. A lot of people were laughing about the performance and stuff. And then all of a sudden, Beta 2 hit, and then all of a sudden, yeah, everybody needed to have a Pi. So you guys see exactly where we're going with this and the steps of evolution, whether they've been good or bad or small steps or big steps. You'll definitely see it here on the channel first. Yeah, still running a little slower. Runs better from the desktop, obviously. Just want to show you guys that it did launch. Do you know if there is any additional optimizations that could be done on the Dolphin emulator prior to before it launches?
So no, it's just there's if you press if when Dolphin's starting up, you can keep pressing A really quick on your controller, like how that normal RetroPie thing. You keep pressing A and it loads up that menu. You can go in there and select, I believe it says Dolphin GUI or something. You can go in there and you can actually go into the Dolphin settings and play around with that yourself if you want to. And try all those things out yourself. If you want to do that right now, Q, actually, you can show them like how to do it. It's not hard. Just so I back out and then keep pressing A on your controller until it loads that menu up.
Is it A?
What's that?
Is it escape or
Escape? I think.
Let me see here.
What's that menu?
Do you want to stop emulation? I think this is the Dolphin.
Yeah, so quit.
Yeah, but let me launch again and then see what happens.
Keep pressing A on your controller.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. So select default emulator. We have Wii.
Yeah. Now look for like GUI or something.
Is it the one that says Wii no GUI? Okay. No
first
GUI.
one. No, first one.
You mean Wii config?
Yeah.
All right. And then hit launch.
Yep.
Because I remember a few updates ago. There it is. Yeah, this would load automatically. So it looks like this has been removed. Because this would load right in between the loading screens.
Yeah, so that's gone. It now loads your game directly. This is just so the user can go into click on graphics and They can set up their controller. So if you go to graphics there, and they can change, the Vulcan or whatever. So if you go to graphics there, no, I would go to graphics.
Graphics.
Yeah. So close that and go to graphics there.
Right.
And see how they can change it. They can click on the Vulcan there, and they can change, the ratio. They can change it to OpenGL if they wanted to. They have a lot of things they can, play around with and tinker with to get the best performance on their setup.
Yeah, I think I'm not even sure if OpenGL would be better suited for this.
You can try it. Like, some games run better with something different than others. It's kind of odd, but you can try it.
Yeah, obviously we want to go to 4.3 because that's what the Wii is, and log render enhancements. Okay, native 640 by 528. That's already set. Enable wireframe. All right, so I think that's about as good as you can do for the emulator right now. I mean, I know there's some additional options, but
and then go to open and see what the performance is now.
All right. Let me see here. Let me go back to graphics really quick. Okay, so it did save. Which option did you want me to go to?
You can play a game from right there. Just go open and just select your game from there. Go open.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just making sure it wasn't something else I could do.
You could change the resolution too when you push AAA, whatever you call it. You can go into the resolution and change that to 720 or whatever.
Yeah, I already changed it down to what did I change it to? 6. You already changed it to like 4.3. So we're good there.
No, like the actual Retropie output for that emulator.
You know what? Does that really give it a performance boost? Because as far as I know,
sadly, yes, it does, which is weird. I know.
I haven't seen too much of that. Oh shoot, what happened? Oh, I gotta launch again. Gotta go back in and change the launching emulator once again. That would be cool that they could actually do that for the Wii, so I didn't have to exit out. Is being able to change the emulator back to what it's supposed to be.
Like even the Mugen one, you can do that too. You can actually keep doing that and go back to the old method. See, the Supreme team didn't just update it; they left the old version there. So if you want to use a script, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just go on the menu there and set it back to the old one, and then just use that. You have choices, which is nice.
Right. Now, can you speak a little bit on Sega Saturn as far as the emulation on that? I know I was playing some 2D games earlier, and it's still about the same, but has there been any performance with 3D games?
There has been some changes. I'm not too informed on that. Like I said, the Supreme team would be better, the ones to give information on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much I really don't know of this, what Supreme team's doing. Like if you want to be a tester of the Supreme team, you can become a tester. Just go on there and be like, hey, I want to test Ultra 1.1. Like they always have make these posts, right? They say, oh, who wants to test Ultra 1.1? Message us or whatever, right? And they'll send one of the developers will be like, oh, here, message me directly on Facebook, right?
Right.
And they'll be like, I'll message this guy, and then you can go in there and they'll explain everything to you in detail, right?
Right.
And you can talk to the developer directly, like face to face. He can give you a phone call, whatever, FaceTime, whatever you do in the groups, right?
Right. Cool.
But I did notice, like I said, 2D games run pretty much the same. They work now, and 3D games, I did notice, like I said, just like the N64, the sound is better.
Let me see if I have any N64 games on here. Let me log out really quick.
It's so weird. It's the sound. The first thing I noticed was the sound being fixed.
Let me see. I'm not sure if I do have some here.
You have some. Okay.
Which game did you test to notice the sound was better?
Banjo-Kazooie is actually one of them.
All right, let's go ahead and play that one there. And I think the default emulator is already set for the Vulcan ones, right? I think it's using the Glass.
I'm not too sure. Most likely, right?
Because I know the last time I checked it, I think it was OpenGLS or whatever it is, the Glass emulator.
Like you'll notice the sound is like the sound itself is just like, look at that. Look how fluent that is.
Yeah, it sounds really good on my end. It's running pretty great.
Like, and I'm not too sure what emulator set is as well. Like the look at the performance, man. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, this is good. This looks better than the original 64.
No, look how fast it is. This is N64 running on the Pi. It is running like flawlessly. If you download right now yourself the base Retropie and try to play most of the N64 games, they're gonna work, of course, but you're gonna have that weird sound issue, like the Ultra 1.0 had that weird, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think you might be right. I think this is running through the Vulcan video driver. Like, it kind of feels a little bit too quick, though. You know what I mean? Like, there's, it's not natural. N64 was slow.
Well, it's definitely a bigger improvement than what we've seen in the past. There we go. Sounds great. I don't hear any choppiness. And this is just the intro screen. I'm just letting it play through so you guys can see a lot of the movement and the process of it.
Conker's Bad Fur Day and Cruising USA were the other ones that were kind of difficult to get running too. The games wouldn't even, like the cutscenes, like the video loading screens of those games would be choppy and not loading correctly. If you wanted to see that.
No, I've already played those. I've already seen them. I just wanted to see something a little differently because we've already shown.
Or try. I'm not too sure. There's other games. There's like.
Yeah, this looks good. Now, is this 60 frames per? No, this is 30. It's in 60.
I'm not too sure what the N64 is. You would have to check. You can actually turn that. Can't you turn the counter thing on?
Yeah, I'd have to go through the settings and stuff, and
like there's no screen tearing at all. You see that too? There's no screen tearing at all. 0.
Yeah, this is 30 frames per second. It's not 60. Almost thought it was 60 for a second.
Yeah, exactly. It's quick, eh?
Mm-hmm. All right, let me back out and find something else. All right, guys, I know we've been going at this for a little bit, but do we have any open requests? Is there any other questions before we end the stream? I know.
Yeah, let someone in the chat pick an N64 to try out that they know had issues. That'd be good.
Yeah, but this is all really impressive. I'm glad I get a chance to really test it out and experiment with some of this stuff. But I probably will use this for a future video I have coming up as far as how to get the best optimization for the Pi 4.
Like I'm gonna be confused and shocked to see an Ultra 1.1 build come out because the community, take advantage of what's going on right now.
Let's see. Retro Lizard wants to see Cruising USA. All right.
I thought so. Shit. Yeah, like, and this is not even overclocked. Like, don't forget, this is not even overclocked. This is just factory. And what do you have it at the Retropie at 1080p, right?
Yeah, this is running through 1080p, and I haven't overclocked any of the.
So So before you actually had to put your screen to 720p, and you had to overclock to get N64 working properly.
Right.
And now it's at 1080p and it's running games. Could you imagine if you did go to 720?
Yeah, I think some of the let me check the settings first. I think some of the settings may just be off a little bit. Yeah, it is. I have to go back in and fix it. Let me I'll log out and then fix it.
What'd you do, sorry?
I don't think the default emulator is correct for this one. Yeah, this was a tricky one because OpenGL is available for N64 with the Vulkan drivers. So I just want to double check. Okay, so it's Glass Rice. That should be working. You know what? Let me
check the resolution. Maybe the resolution is all.
Yeah, but if I go to resolution, I might have to reboot. So here, let me go ahead and fix the resolution on here. So this is you guys can watch. This is how you get the best optimal performance on the Raspberry Pi. What is it? Raspberry config.
You can do it through the script too, man. There's a script that does it now. You don't have to go through all that crazy shit.
Oh yeah, which script is that?
Go into emulation tools, I believe, or visual tools. Or you can go in there.
Let me see, which one of these do I want? Let's see, which one was the best?
Man, just go into the script and use a script instead. This is just gonna
Okay.
make a mess.
Well, I'm just playing around with it. I'll just use this one for right now. Want to reboot? Yeah, we'll reboot. So this will fix the resolution issue. This will put everything as to how it would be. This is how Venom is set, as well as Pistolero. Honestly, I can't remember if I actually did this for Pistolero, but I know Wolfenos did this as well on Retromania and Venom to get the best.
It's not needed. It just depends on your capture card and everything too, recording, right? Like,
well, I mean, this is all 1080p. My TV would be 1080p 4K, and then my capture screen would.
Yeah,
also...
but like it was the game loaded up, and it was like you seen the game loading. It was fine, but it was all in the corner there. I seen on your capture card. It was in like a higher resolution than 1080p. It looked like it was like, I don't know, 2K, whatever it is.
Yeah, there it is. Well, that should have fixed it. So that'll.
Stop playing with your resolutions, Keo. Jeez. Not everything can be played at 4K. It's the Pi 4, man.
All right, here we go. N64. All right, that should have fixed it.
Let's hope.
No, it's an easy fix. I mean, people have seen this on my other videos with Supreme Ultra and stuff. So,
because everybody has a different TV, right? That's what the issue is as well, right? Everybody has there's the 1080p, 60, 50.
Oh crap! I don't think that fixed it. I picked the wrong resolution. Crap! It's still at the bottom corner.
Oh, can't you change the resolution within the game itself too? Well, there it goes.
Yeah, but there's a certain resolution when you set it at. I mean, everything is just flush. It's just right there in the middle. You don't have to do anything.
It is right now. It's showing in the middle of the TV right now. You see it on the middle.
Well, it is, but when you notice, so this is actually a good tutorial for those of you out there. When you don't pick the full resolution, you'll get this.
I think you have the wrong video emulator picked, man. It's all glitched up and everything.
Well, that's what I was saying. I don't have the right emulator selected because the sky and everything is on the far left.
Yeah, so you have to choose the other emulator.
Yeah, let's back out for a second.
It looks all weird.
Well, actually, I don't think it has nothing to do with the emulator in this case. It has to do with the right resolution that you set it at too.
Yeah, because every game has its own configuration file. Like if you see that if you want, like Keo basically dragged over his ROM set and his files. So it's going by his settings, not what Ultra is. If you have the default Ultra and you have a 1080p TV, you won't have any of those weird glitches. Like I played it today, and there was no issues like that glitchiness and all that or whatever.
Yeah,
But
it's just
again,
all about selecting the right emulator. Oh crap! This one will run with parallel. Yeah, but that's actually part of another tutorial I'll have for everybody as far as changing some of these settings. But I mean, we've done it here on the channel already as far as picking the right emulators. And let's see, GlenRes 2 high res, and then there's another option in here: select video mode for Mugen with ROM. Let me see if this will fix it just right here. I don't want to go back to Raspberry config because I know I can fix it going back there, but let's see if I can do it from here.
try 1080, 720 or whatever.
Yeah, 724 4.3 or 16 by 9.
16 by 9, I believe.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's see what happens. Oh, it is full speed. We're just trying to pick the right resolution for the overall pie. See, there it is. Yeah, so again, I'll be doing this in a full tutorial showing you how you could play with different
Yeah,
emulators
nothing's
and the
wrong.
resolutions.
People see all that glitchiness, they're like, "Oh, it's not running full speed." It's you just gotta play around with the settings.
See? Yeah, so this is all about learning here. See, there it goes.
And there's the sky.
And see, and this is what happens in the groups when people are putting out false and bad information.
Exactly. You
Saying
know what I mean?
and you have things like this because it takes a full knowledge and understanding to get something working. It's not just, oh, I saw something and it's broken or it doesn't run full speed. See? So there it is.
Full speed, no lag.
Yeah. It's all about the video graphics and making sure you got the right emulator there. So that's one way of doing it, or I could have just done it
Yeah.
overall for the whole Pi device.
Let's see the factory Retropie play this game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people, I don't know, man. People always, look at that. And there's no sound issues.
Nope. And you can overclock the GPU if you want to. There's additional settings for that. So, oh shoot, my driving's way off.
And this is what you said, it's a 720, right? Or 1080. What is it at?
This is at 720, 16 by 9. So it should be what 724.3.
And what's the Pi resolution set at? 1080?
No, it's set at I forgot what I set it to. I think I set it to 720.
Okay. Well, what you're seeing right now does work 1080p too at full speed as well. I've tested it. Because what happens is it just has to. I think what's happening too is your capture card it only takes in 720p. It looks like.
Yeah, right, and that's another thing too, guys. Keep that in mind that anytime you're running your Pi through a capture card, it takes a performance hit. I don't know why that is, but it takes a performance hit.
Yep,
and
yep. If you look at Keel, if Keel was to do a camera thing again and unplug his capture card, you'll see even more of an improvement too. Which is, it's weird how it does that because all it is an HDMI basically splitter in a way, right?
Yeah, and I mentioned that too when I first showed the Supreme desktop running. Oh God, where'd that card come from? And I noticed I took a performance hit. Like it was fine when I was sitting there looking at it. Then I went to capture it.
You know what build would need to be overclocked to run this? That one guy that keeps saying, "Oh, the Supreme build needs to be overclocked." I bet you his build needs to be overclocked just to run it like this.
You know what? I have it and I erased over it, so I didn't even bother testing it because I didn't like it.
That'd been funny. I've seen that guy bothering the Supreme team over and over again. It's too funny.
Cool. So again, guys, just because somebody makes a video and says something runs laggy or crappy on the Pi, they probably didn't adjust their optimizations in their settings. So as you guys see, you saw things were a little off at first. That was just a video setting because the TV is at 1080p and the Pi was at a different resolution. So you have to,
and the emulator was at a different resolution as well. Like it was all different because people have to remember one thing and very clearly. That build was made for that guy's setup or that person's setup, right? That guy that, obviously shrink the image. I don't know who it was.
Mhm.
You know, when they shrink it, right, they test it on their TV, and their TV could be, I don't know. I don't know if the whoever shrunk it could have could be living in Europe, right? You know what I mean? And he could have 50 hertz, 1080p, at I'm not sure how all that works, right? And have resolution
Right.
all switch. So when you download into a 65-inch TV and he had like a 32-inch TV, there's going to be a huge difference. You know what I mean?
Right. Definitely.
And that's why the Supreme team added that script, the resolution script, because what you're seeing now.
Yeah, we're on Mugen. We're back on Mugen again. I just wanted to see what this game would look like. Let me see. I think this was launched. I forgot too that also affects the overall performance of Mugen as well. And obviously, this ROM doesn't work. But do we have any more questions in the chat? I think we're going to pretty much wrap it up tonight because I'm getting hungry, and I know a lot of you have some other things to do tonight.
Oh, what are you making for dinner for us? I'm just kidding.
I had some pork chops and stuff. But yeah, so you guys will see a lot of this coming out. I have some other tutorials for things like that. Retro Lizard, I know you'll greatly appreciate it because he's an arcade guy and he likes working on different projects.
Like if
Because
so, all I know is if you want to have, like, before we end up cutting this off and everything, if you want to have what you see kiodiekin showcasing now, it's actually very
send me,
easy.
yeah,
Just
send me
update.
$10,000.
No, just go to every build of Ultra has a Supreme Online Toolkit. Load that up. Go to their software update thing. Update
Right,
every single one individually, and then after you do that, update your OS, right? Like,
right,
and then go to the Retropie setup script, whatever, and update that, and then there you go. You're on Ultra 1.1. Of course, this 1.1 and the 1.1 that you're showcasing now obviously is different because it has all the small tweaks at it, right? Like Supreme Team went there and changed that, and went in there and fixed that. You know what I mean? There's a little bit more done to Ultra 1.1 than what's available in the online toolkit, but they're
right.
trying their best, and you know pushing updates in the online toolkit for everybody, because it's not easy, right? Like,
Of course not.
people have full-time jobs and stuff.
Yep, and this is a lot of work just trying to figure out what works because you always got to test things and test it and then double check it.
And
And
that's what makes, what's funny too, is when people get mad at people, like when people get mad at you or the Supreme Team or I don't know, Level 1 Online, and they're doing all that for free. it's like
yep.
it's like they paid you know for something. They didn't pay anything. It's free.
Well, another thing I want to add too, when you're making a RetroPie base or image, I would say at least the base for the most part, you kind of have to fill it up with everything and then see it work. It's not like, hey, I just installed something. Oh, I just checked it a few minutes ago. You have to do everything in conjunction with one another because one little thing that you add could break the whole build. So if you add Cody, you have to test Cody with a bunch of ROMs on there and a different BIOSes because any one of those new BIOS or any type of update or install could break something else. So a lot of times when I've been testing the Supreme bases and the images, I've had to load it up. I've had to delete all of it because you want to get a combination of what may inadvertently break something else. So that's a part of image making. It's not just, hey, I'm gonna load Nintendo on there, but yet Genesis is going to work. I mean, because something you loaded for Nintendo could possibly break something else.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you're right. Like, it's no guarantee, right? Like, if and the thing is, it's like it's like customer support. Like, all the groups with their customer support. I'm like, if it doesn't work for you, delete it, download something else. If that doesn't work, go to the official website, download the official thing, and go complain over there, because some of the issues that people are having, it's been answered a million times in, like, YouTube videos, groups, you name it, and they're still asking. Like, I seen a silly question today: how do you add splash screens? What?
Well,
Are you for real? Like, they didn't even take the time to do a quick search in the group. There's a search bar at the very top of Facebook, on YouTube, Google. How do you add splash screens? RetroPie has a very in-depth the tutorial, and to come in a group and just be entitled and ask a million questions for that have already been answered, and then they get mad and they say, "Oh, you guys are, mean, and you guys kicked me and all that stuff." Well, you're coming into a group and you're the one asking the same question over and over again. Like the guy posted, he said, "I need help," and then someone answers me, are you for real? Then he made another post and goes, "Oh, the group is rude." What?
Yeah, I know we've seen quite a few influxes of people asking questions about the Sin and Light Gun, but not in regards to the Sin and Light Gun. I
Oh,
definitely want to cover some additional
that'd be a
tutorials for
whole
some of you
nother
out there.
video.
Yeah, more like a couple of days
Yeah,
explaining
because
stuff.
it like you said, I think a shipment was released or something, because like out of nowhere, the amount of posts that were made about their Sinden not working was like ridiculous. Like one out of one day, like what, 7 or 8 people made a post about it. I'm like, whoa! I was
Right.
shocked reading it. It was on YouTube, it was on Facebook, it was on Google and Reddit and the small board community on Discord and everything. I'm like, did a huge shipment go out? Like, what's going on here?
And also too, like right now we have about 16 viewers, and we've been streaming now for about a good hour and 30 minutes. And what will happen is, we have 16 viewers. These people will find out how something works in the performance, and then we'll get an influx of questions. And those are the same people that didn't want to join the live stream. And we've had a ton of people ask me questions, and here we are sitting here live, but they never come onto the channel to ask their questions. So Retro Lizard, you've seen it. Out of My Mind Arcade, you've seen it when people will ask a lot of questions, but they never log into a live stream
Yep.
to get help from the people who are in the community who have
And that's
actually done
why
it.
I've left a lot of these groups, man. I've left a lot of groups personally myself, and the Supreme team as well. I believe has left a bunch of groups they were part of too. Like they were helping people out. Now they just deal with their own community. And myself, I just left all these different communities as well. That's just no point. You know what I mean? Like it's just so much drama and headaches and arguments and people being rude. Like that one guy I told you about. He made a post about, oh, you have to overclock this to run that, and he's comparing a Retropie build that came out when the Pi 4 first came out compared to
Mhm.
a build that was released yesterday. Like, come on, man! Like, give your head a shake,
Yep.
man. It's
Yeah.
like
Let
me
me answer this.
comparing it's like me comparing an apple to a freaking pear and be like, oh, the apple tastes better. Like,
Yeah. Let me answer this question really quick from Triple X. He says the Sending guns are a sensitive topic. So what happened with the Sending light guns is it was initially released, what is it now, going on 3 years almost, and so it was released for PC, and then obviously back in, I think it was June, July, September, you and I were streaming, and they touted the whole idea of it working on the Pi 4. Now the whole thing with RetroPie is a very sensitive thing, because unless you really tested all the games and know, or actually have a light gun list that you tested it with, you really don't know how it will work. And the Sinin software is proprietary to itself. It has a software that runs in the background in addition to RetroPie. Now, I've never seen any type of software like that. The Dolphin bar works with Bluetooth. I forgot what AimTrack really uses. And then, of course, you have the Gun 4 IR, which uses USB and USB infrared type
I'm
setup,
I'm not
and it
even
has this.
man, I'm not even gonna get into the dolphin thing, because, or not dolphin thing, sorry, the Sinden thing. I don't even want to get involved, because the whole thing around the Sinden has been like I said, it's been a headache, man. Like the support, they don't even know what's supported, right? That's what you said. Like they don't know what's supported, and they couldn't provide all that stuff.
Right. So
Like
so
what?
so the yeah, so the biggest problem with that is if you aren't familiar with how RetroPie works with emulation and knowing all the setups. I'm talking about all the emulators, RetroArch, MAME, Redream, and stuff. You have a gun, but the biggest important part is understanding how all the emulators work. Now, the Sin and Light gun does work, but unless you have a severe understanding of how the emulators correspond with the gun, you're going to have a hard time, because even as of right now, I know some individuals are still trying to get certain games to run with the send and light gun because it doesn't have full compatibility with the emulators. And having an understanding of that is really vital to say something is fully functional and works in regards to that. So that's
That's
why you
why I
guys are
said I ain't getting into that. That's out of my realm. Like I said, the Supreme team, just for, I guess, for fun, they made a script that you showcased way back, right? Which did everything for the end user. You know what I mean? You can select
right.
your inputs and all that, and they never released it because as soon as they released it, what's going to happen?
Yep. So but yeah, out of my mind, arcade. Yeah, I'll probably plan on doing some additional live tutorials as far as setup and just walking people through some of the things because, as I was telling somebody earlier, it's very difficult or pretty much near impossible, and I've said it before, to troubleshoot every Pi image or every Retropie interface because there's so many variables out there. Somebody could put a code in there that breaks the whole image, and yet you're trying to get one game to work or a system and it's not working. And if I don't have an understanding about what somebody added, how can I be truthful with you and tell you why something is broken if you aren't the one that programmed it? So
And
you
that's
want to
why I
have,
always say, if the build doesn't work for you, download something different, try something else. Like people complain about, like I said, ultra. It doesn't even matter if it's ultra, any build, they complain about it over and over again. Like, use something different. Like, why you
right.
if you're having such a hard issue or a hard time with this build, download something different. Oh, but I want this feature and that feature. Well, sometimes you can't have everything, working. It's not how it is.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stress this again. I can tell you there's a viewer of mine. I don't want to name him by name, but I talk to him every now and then on Discord. He downloaded Wolfenos's image when it came out back in November, December last year, and it wouldn't boot. And so he said he had to downgrade his EEPROM update just to get it to boot. So I said all that to say this: myself, members of the Supreme team, and other people in the community, you can't just ask a flat out question why something of mine isn't working when there are so many different variables. There's so many different EEPROM updates. You have an SD card, USB drives. That's kind of been fixed for the most part. We don't know if you're using a NESP case. I don't know if you guys have watched that.
Yeah,
The
like
guy.
there's
There's
the
so many
fast
different
instance.
variables, and you ask us a flat out question about what my stuff doesn't work. I mean, you could spend days or weeks trying to troubleshoot
You can't,
something if
yeah,
you didn't make it.
you kind of, people feel bad too because you can't help the guy, right? Like, you have to know everything. You need to know what drive he has, right?
Hmm.
What EEPROM he has, what build he's using, what he added himself. Like, the list just doesn't end. Like, for myself, I had troubles booting up an SSD drive, and so did you, right? Like, when we first got
Yep.
Ultra working on the drive, I couldn't figure it out, and I messaged Supreme Team over and over and over again, like, it's not working. They kept telling me, yes, it works. We have booting up an SSD on our builds, and it's working perfectly fine. I'm telling the Supreme team, I'm like, no, my build's not working. I even drove them crazy. And then they went out to the store and just bought a random drive, and then they had the issue as well. And then they found out it's because of you have to tell the Pi to boot to that drive. If you remember, you have to change
Yeah,
the
I remember, and I don't even want to go
like.
hashing back into it because put it this way, there were so many different variables because you could have a let's see, I think I told you guys the story. I had two USB drives, both made by the same manufacturer, P&Y.
Oh,
One
geez, I
was
remember that.
128 and the other one was 256. The 256 would boot, but the 128 wouldn't. So you imagine you have different USB companies, storage companies out there, different file sizes, trying to get an image to boot, and somebody says, "Oh, mine doesn't boot." You know how many variables that is when you
Oh,
start thinking
it
about
was
all
nuts.
the different
Like the
companies that are
Supreme
out there.
the Supreme team worked very hard to get that to work, but to this day, there's no fix because you know there's the EEPROM version, and people are like, "What the heck's an EEPROM?" Right? And then there's the drive, the way it's USB 3.0, 2.0, the hard drive manufacturer, the chip date. Like, it was just like, to this day, I just say you know what? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't even get into any of those troubleshooting. It's just it will never end.
Right. And that's the only thing I wish people would understand is there's nothing wrong with saying something doesn't work, whatever the case might be, but just having that understanding that there's going to be additional things you need to do on your end to make sure something works. And that's why a lot of people should be really thankful and the gratitude for people in the community who spend that additional time to get it to work because it's not a PC. And
And
yeah,
that's why
Retropie.
every single Pi 4 image review on YouTube is not accurate because of the whole, like you, I can remember it was you and what's the other guy that reviews videos on YouTube? I can't remember. You guys were both reviewing the same image. He was having so many issues with the build, and then you booted up and you had no issues like at all, and it's because of the
Nope.
EEPROM. Remember that? Like I
Yeah, I
was like,
remember.
and then people were calling you a liar and you're using a different build and they called him a liar too, and then it was like, no, it's yes, it's the same build, but he's using a USB drive, he's using a micro SD card, and then
That's
it's like EEPROM version, and then I was like,
and,
fuck.
and I still want to stress to you guys that the quality of SD card does matter. And
Yep,
they
100%.
the SD card, what was it? Because I had these issues happen when I first started using Retropie, as far as the degradation of the SD card. How long does it last over time? And you can read it on the Best Buy website with a lot of SD cards. Like there are SD cards out there you could get for $300, and you'll sit there and wonder, like, gee, well, why does it cost so much? Well, that's because over time it doesn't have that degradation factor where it's giving out on quality. So imagine you go out and you go buy a $10 SD card, off the wall at some little place, whatever. Talking about, yeah, it's cheap, but it'll still work. Can you imagine the performance you're getting out of that when the degradation and the high quality depends upon what type of files you're adding onto it? It's not going to hold up over time, and the performance is just going to degrade over a number of years, or not just years, but it'll just give out on you sooner or later. And I've bought some SD cards recommended by some YouTubers, and
And
they just
that's
flat out
why,
fail.
yeah, and that's exactly. I've gone through so many micro SD cards. It's not even funny. But I think from now on, I think people that review Pi 4 builds shouldn't, they should label, the SD card they're using. Actually, you know what? It wouldn't even matter because you can have the exact same brand and the same
Mhm.
size and still have issues. You know what I mean? It's like, how you can't even make a list of what you own because some guys gonna buy the exact same thing and have the issue, like, same brand, same everything, and still have the exact same issue. So you have to label your EEPROM version, the micro SD card you bought, the brand, the size. Like, you'd have to make a huge list. But I still recommend people that review builds should still label that stuff so people have an idea, you know what I mean, to what they're
Hey,
using.
hey, tell me this. Well, I can't remember if it was you or not, but who told me that in 1 month, I think the Raspberry Pi Foundation released like 30 or 40 different EEPROM updates, and people were downloading different ones, even though they thought they were downloading the same EEPROM?
I don't think that wasn't me, but yeah, there was like, it wasn't different version. It was just like, beta 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, something like that. Because I remember what happened is there was a post, right? The guy updated his EEPROM. It was, what's that guy's YouTube, PSP video, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Oh, Lee PSP.
Yeah, so he made a video of how to update your EEPROM, right? And he showcased. I think maybe it was him that said it, because he had a video. He updated his EEPROM, right, on video, and
Hmm.
he showed the version number, and he updated it again the exact same day, and the version number changed the exact
Yeah.
same day.
See, yeah, see, we don't have time to figure out all this other stuff. I mean, Raspberry Pi Foundation's putting in all these other variables with how many different EEPROM updates are coming out affecting performance. Sometimes you boot, sometimes you don't. Runs faster, runs slower, whatever the case might be. So imagine trying to do an accurate review, and all of these different variables are
And then you
affecting
have
in performance.
manufacturers coming out with all these weird cases, like the Nest Pi 4 case where it has the Bluetooth issue, and then you have the version 2 that has the USB issue. It's like, holy moly, man.
Yeah, now I was talking to that other guy. I can't think. I think his name is Pi something, but he's
Pi
from
Mania, I
Australia.
believe his YouTube channel is.
Yeah, him. So I was talking to him, and he didn't even know it. So he started running his own test, and I think one of the tests that he ran told him, and he was like, "Man, this already set me back a day," because he had the exact same problem when he was having interference with the 2.4 gigahertz wireless internet.
Yeah, and
I
then
think
some
he had
people,
to put.
yeah, and then some other guy, the same guy on YouTube with the same case had no issues, but had issues with his USB port. I'm sitting here like, it's the exact same case. He's
Right.
having Wi-Fi issues. This guy's not, but he's having Bluetooth issues, and this guy's having USB issues. And I'm like, I'm shaking my head here, Keo, and I'm like, there's so many things that can cause a build not to work.
Yeah, exactly. There's not just one thing, and this is GameCube, by the way, for those of you guys wondering. But no, this isn't. Yeah, this is GameCube. Yeah, so I mean, there's just so many different variables, and so when someone says, "Hey, this isn't working," or "Mine's is not running," it's not. I mean, even if you go back to the Pi 3B Plus, you had a Pi 3B Plus, you had the new software out. I think what was it at the time? Stretch or was it Buster? It was one of those.
I think it was
And
Buster, and
yeah, yeah, it might have been Buster. You had one. You had one
yeah,
update,
OS
and that
versions, and
right, and that was it. So if you factor in Raspberry Pi, so you had the 3 Raspberry Pis, you had the actually no 4. You had 1 gig, 2 gig, 4, and 8, and then everybody said, "Oh, yo, the 8 GB is the same as the 4 GB." No, it wasn't, because Retropie wouldn't boot, and they didn't find that out until they tried to buy one and it wouldn't boot. And then they made a USB boot available, so that created another possible variable. And then all the EEPROM updates, and all of them came out all at the same time. The Pi 4 8 GB model came out along with different EEPROM updates. So what was it? I
and
think
now
I was
and now there's another variable that was just added. The SoC was changed in the Pi 4 to the Pi 400 version, whatever. Like, what the?
yeah. So now there's a new
Oh,
Pi 4 GB model out with a different chip on it. So we don't know if it'll boot or not. So
yeah,
imagine
and you
people
can't
go out and
even.
buy
And
that, and
yeah, I don't think the box is any different either. You have to actually open the box up and look at the Pi 4 itself to see the numbers on the chip to make sure you're
yeah,
getting that new model. And no
yeah,
one has tested it yet.
I'm actually been in contact with Micro Center because I don't want to have to drive a few hours away just to buy one and then see if they even have those in stock, because they're not even aware of it. So I was talking to them the past couple of days. I said, look, nobody's done a video on it. We don't know what the differences are.
What's that guy's name that made the post on YouTube about the SoC being changed? What was the guy's name? Do you have a picture of that still?
I sure don't. I don't. I know who you're talking about. He has like 200 something thousand subscribers,
Yeah, and
but
he was talking about it, and he was even shocked. He was like, "That's a shock." And supposedly it runs cooler at higher overclocks or something.
yeah. So we don't even know if Retropie boot even on that. I mean, we have no idea of knowing until we actually test it. And I don't want to order one online and hope for the best, but it was one of those things that's going to take some investigation. And there hasn't been any YouTube videos or anything about this new Pi model or this new Pi 4 with
And
the
they
new
didn't
chip.
even, yeah, didn't even. There's no discussion or anything online about it. This one YouTuber found it out and said, "Hey, there's a new Pi 4 with this." So basically, it's not a new Pi 4. It's the Pi 400. What is it? CPU on the Pi 400. So it's like,
Yeah, the last 4 digits are 6COT, I believe, and the previous one was like 6B something. So as far as I know, those are the only noticeable differences. But I am working with the store and management to find out the details to see if they have that new chip in stock, and then see if there's a difference between the previous model and the current ones that are out there.
yeah, because like it was a shock to a lot of people. Like when I found it, I'm like shaking my head here, like, you know what's gonna happen? All the Pi 4 images that were made for the Pi 4 are not gonna work on the Pi 4. The description says not for the Pi 400, right? Because there's a lot of builds out there that don't work on the Pi 400 because it was, because the Pi 4 image worked on the Pi 4, but the Pi 400 changed something. I don't know what it was exactly. So
Right.
no build would boot besides Ultra because Supreme Team kind of, I think, thought ahead. It just works on every Pi 4, right? You put Ultra on the Pi 4, it just boots up. So if you buy the new Pi 4, don't worry. I'm pretty sure Ultra will boot up on it because it boots up on all Pi 4s.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I mean? But the Pi 4 images that are out right now that don't work on the 400, I have a weird feeling that it's not gonna boot up on these Pi 4s with the new chip on it.
We'll see. Yeah, Sam,
Like,
that's pretty funny. My 1.0 build isn't supreme enough. When can I complain about the 1.1 build's supremeness? Just joking. That's funny.
if it build it's not enough. It's not enough. If it doesn't work, if you don't like Supreme Ultra or whatever, download something else. Download a Virtual Man build, or you know, a Damaso build or a Wolfenos build. Like, I don't. There's so many builders out there. You know what I mean? Like, there's DZ or something like that, and there's like, you know, a bunch of new teams out there that, you know, making pie images and all that. Download from someone else. Like, this is whatever works for you, whatever makes you happy. No one's telling you to download this build and use that build. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you know, there's all these different builds all using Supreme code in it, I'm sure.
Who knows?
Cool.
They don't want to even get in the drama no more. Like, I've talked to some of the devs over there, and they're like just shaking their head. They're like, this guy's making a post complaining that this guy used this guy's code, but he's actually part of the Supreme team. But that guy doesn't know that. You know what I mean? And then you have like people helping. I don't even want to get into it. They're done with it now. They just sit there and laugh and be like, before you say they took something, read the credit system, please. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Right? Read the credit system.
All right, fellas, I think we're about done for tonight because I'm getting hungry, but I really hope you all enjoyed this showcase. If you have any questions, try to leave them here on this video. I'm going to try to do a couple of more live streams probably throughout the week answering questions. So I'm going to try to cut down on answering questions in the groups because as you
And
see,
if you guys have any questions,
you
leave them. Also, make the post on the Supreme Retro Gaming page or the Supreme YouTube. Supreme has a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so go on the Supreme YouTube channel or Supreme on Facebook, whatever, Supreme Retropie, whatever, and make a post there. And then, obviously, because Keo's an administrator there, right? You're still admin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Keo's an administrator there, so he can copy and paste your questions from there and answer them in a future video for you guys.
Cool. Yeah, so definitely I'm gonna try to do some more live streams to answer some questions, but hopefully we can get more people to participate because there's a ton of questions, but people don't want to show up.
Yeah, and the
when
people that
help
were asking the questions are not even in the YouTube channel watching the video, right? You've been streaming for 2 hours, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are home. You know what I mean? And then watch tomorrow, someone's going to ask us about a question or ask, you, whatever, and they're going to be like, so Kia, what's new about Ultra 1.1? Well, there's a 2-hour stream yesterday that explained pretty much everything.
Yep, you got that right. All right, guys, you guys have a good night. I will catch you guys later. Peace out.
Peace. Don't forget to be part of the Patreon of Supreme. Kiodiekin.